Today I'm going to tie a Tangerine Dream wet fly on a size 14 Trout hook. As you can see, I've already put the hook within the vise, and on that hook is a pearlescent clear orange bead. Now, as ever, I'm going to bed the hook with tying silk. In this case, the tying thread is going to be Purcell's gossamer silk, as we would use for all wet flies. And I'm going to bed that hook just behind the eye and about that distance. Trim off our excess and continue down towards the bend of the hook, as so, and then back up towards the eye. Okay. First material I'm going to use is some cock hackle, as so. I'm going to trim some of that cock hackle away from the stalk, as so, which will leave me the cock hackle fibres. Place that on top of the shank of the hook, then using a pinch and loop, bringing the thread down slowly, will snap and tie those cock hackle fibres on top of the shank of the hook. A couple of wee turns to secure those fibres in, as so. I'm now going to trim off our excess. Next material is to rib the fly with some fine silver wire. I'm tying that wire in, but you can also see there that the end of the wire is at the same level of where I was actually tying the thread before. Continue down towards the bend of the hook, as so, and then back up, ensuring all those materials are tightly in. Then I'm going to rib the fly, rib that body with a few turns of the fine silver wire, catch the wire in accordingly, and using our heavy scissors trim off the excess wire, as so. I'm going to use some tying silk to cover the point of where I've cut the silver wire, and then at this point here I'm going to whip finish behind the bead. Now, traditional tying silk is a fairly thick, in today's standard, tying material, so consequently, to save bulk, I'm only doing one whip finish. On all of my other flies, I always double whip finish any joint. Take some clear varnish, dip in the dubbing needle, and just give a little wee bit of varnish just on that point, as so, where that whip finish was performed. Move the bead back slightly, and then I'm going to bed from the eye of the hook up to that bead with Purcell's traditional tying silk. Trim off the excess, as so. Now, this is actually a very easy fly to tie, although this is the most difficult part of the fly. As you can see there, the bead has a chamfered edge. We are now going to tie in a hen hackle and as you can imagine it gets quite difficult because of that chamfer. We'll see how we get on. So I select my hen hackle from my hen cape. In this case it's natural black. We have the hen hackle there, and to prepare that hen hackle I simply stroke some of those fibres back such that I get effectively a teardrop shape. At that teardrop shape point, as in here, it is that point where I will tie in the hackle. The hackle will be tied in shiny side facing towards the tyre. Just a couple of loose turns at first. Slide that hackle back to the position where we want it. Then a couple of tight turns to secure the hackle in place, and using a pair of hackle pliers grab the hackle, and because of the chamfer I'm going to double that hackle to make it easier to tie in. So much the same as when we do our summer flies. As you can see there, I have got a stray piece off the tie-in point, so I'm just going to stroke that out of the way so that doesn't get entangled within our hen hackle. We'll literally do a couple of turns, and as you can see that bead is starting to splay those hackle fibres nearly vertical. As so. Guide the thread through those fibres so we can tie in that hackle. Now if you imagine, we want that hackle fairly sparse as any sort of traditional wet fly. However, we want it thick enough to give it enough movement to that fly. And then I'm going to trim off the excess as so. Trim off the excess of our tying in point. As so here. Yep. I'm then going to stroke all of our fibres back while keeping pressure with the bobbin holder on that tying thread. So we've got a good circumference of hackle fibres around that bead. A couple of wee turns to lock everything in place as so. And as you can see with traditional tying silks, it unfortunately means that the head becomes quite thick and quite bulbous. However, we want to keep everything as traditional as possible when we're tying wet flies. So consequently, I will only give this fly one whip finish, as so, such that that head is not too bulbous. Trim off the excess. Apply some varnish to the head of the fly to lock in and seal our whip finish, as so. Varnish there, I think. And then is the tangerine cream